Hey, Rachel. Hey, Brianna.
Hi.
Just giving you a heads up. We are live on YouTube. So anything you say will be in public.
Okay.
We're not recording yet, but just want to give you that heads up. Thanks for joining.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
I'm just turning off YouTube now because that's what you heard, us talking again. Where are you guys at? Where you live?
San Jose, California.
You're in California. You're in
California.
Yeah.
We're sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. I made that assumption. Just don't want to over assume that you lived in the same place.
Yeah, we do.
Good. I think Ashley should be on really any minute. Here comes John Ortiz. John, we see you in the mirror. It's kind of weird. Hey, John.
Yeah.
Hey, Ashley.
Hello.
I'll give you guys the heads up that I gave Rachel and Brianna. We are live on YouTube, so that is happening.
Okay.
I have not hit the record button yet, though, so I'll do that here. We'll wait till 2 minutes out. I'll hit the record button, and then I'll make you the host, Ashley.
Okay.
As we start, I'll just do a really quick intro right at the 4 o'clock time frame, and then you take it away. Lead the charge.
Perfect.
Great.
Got it. Rachel and Brianna, can you do me a favor? Can you put next to your name, athlete?
Yeah.
And athlete, maybe, are you guys Southern California area? John, if you can put also coach, Oregon. Listen, Johnny, it's a free for all. Do whatever you want to put, okay?
Okay.
As long as everybody knows who each person is. Adam, if you can, I mean, everybody should know you're the CEO, but we won't assume. So if you can actually put that too, please.
There you go.
Thanks.
All right, I'm gonna press the record button. Ready, set. I got 3 more people coming in here. Give them a heads up before I hit record.
Oh, Northern California. Sorry, I don't know California that well. Hello, everyone coming in. If you're just now joining us, hey, Sarah. Hey, everyone. If you're joining us, do me a favor and go ahead and if you are a coach, put coach by your name and your region, whether Potomac Valley region, me, I would be Southeast Florida, which I'll put that at some point.
Should we also put like judge or athlete if we're that?
Yeah, coach. Yeah, so if you're a coach or an athlete, let us know that. And then also let us know the area or region that you're in, or even this, or just the state, either works.
All right, everybody who's on, we're gonna go record right now. We are live on YouTube right now already. So I'm gonna record. Right now. Ashley, keep an eye on admittance. We have 15 participants on now, but as I give you host responsibilities, I will not be able to admit anybody else. So it'll pop up on your screen.
Oh, good.
Or if you go to participants at the bottom, you can click there
Okay.
and it'll admit them.
Got
I
it.
do believe that we're at everybody though. So
Perfect.
Ashley, you are now the host and it is now 4 o'clock. So in the mountain time zone, I know different everywhere, but allow me to introduce myself really quick. I am Adam Andresco, CEO of USA Artistic Swimming. It is my pleasure to serve all of you and really to kickstart what's been a long time coming for our organization. And some great movements have been made in the last couple of weeks, and this is another one of those. So special thanks to Ashley Johnson, several other people that are on this panel for helping us all move forward. But I will take no more of your time. I will introduce Ashley Johnson, who will be your moderator for today. And on behalf of all of USA Artistic Swimming, thanks to the panelists, and thanks for everybody who joined us on YouTube. All yours, Ashley.
Great. First of all, thank you so much for everybody who is tuning in on YouTube to watch this, and all of the people who are on this panel I have reached out to directly, and I appreciate so much that you guys are a part of this. A few things I want to just welcome a new friend who is from the UK, which is Marie. If you can see her, she is a Black judge of artistic swimming, and I got to meet her after I did my podcast. She reached out to me and wants to be involved any way that she can take back to her country as well. And we welcome you, Marie. Thank you so much for coming. Also,
Thank you.
Thanks, Marie. Good to have you. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to the Sculptons Junior team who sent me an awesome letter of what has been going on and what they have seen as non-Black athletes in the organization. And I really appreciate these 3 young ladies who really came through, wrote an amazing letter that I wanted them to be a part of this discussion as well. As you know, in our organization, unfortunately, over many years, the Black community has suffered. When I say suffered, meaning inequality and a couple of racial things that all of us have seen and experienced. And so I sent out a nice survey across USA to connect with our Black athletes, because we have to figure out where all of our Black athletes are. So some of the things, and I want to open this up as a open discussion, not to sit and tell a million stories, but hey, this has happened. What do we want to see happen moving forward in our organization as coaches, as judges, and as athletes, not only for Blacks, but for minorities and males. So that is why I have a male coach on the call. I have plenty of diversity and Black athletes and parents as well, because this is not just the athlete. This is the parent, the athlete, the coach. It's a whole situation. So I want to start the conversation off very open, honest, get down to the nitty-gritty of it. I am sure all of us on this phone call, especially as Black or male swimmers, have faced some type of racial, whether it's inequality, racial situations. And I want to see anybody who is a Black or minority, raise your hand if you have never experienced any racial injustice within this organization. All right, well, there starts our conversation. There's where it starts. A lot of you have sent me concerns, and some of the concerns were things of like judging, not seeing enough diversity within judging, not seeing enough diversity within coaching staffs, not seeing enough Black people people or just in general on the board of directors. And I want to open the floor up because in order for us to move forward, we have to acknowledge what has happened in the past to be able to stand up and move forward. So I just want to have an open, very open. I don't want us to talk for like 3 hours, one person, but just kind of throw out a couple of things. Some of the things I've seen, like I said, and one of them, Patrice, is on here from Cali, and she's a coach in Cali. And she said something, which I read, which said, I've been in this sport for 9 years and still they don't get my name correct. And I know that's happened to her because it's happened to me. I've gone to conventions as one of the few Blacks in this organization, and they have looked at me and came to me from California and said, Patrice, I heard that you merged clubs. And I'm like, I'm not Patrice. You know what I mean? So these are things that we need to address, put out there for at least the Black community to move forward, as well as just not the Black community, but diversity to take any effect. So I want to go ahead with Visera. I see you there. Visera. She is from the South and she is a coach and a swimmer, was a swimmer, now a coach. And I want to open up to you quickly as a coach. What are things, give me a couple bullet points that as a Black coach, what is it?
So, I thankfully from my team has been very diverse from when we first started. Jenny is our head coach and she is very open and welcome to all kinds of swimmers. And she embraces us and allows us to kind of like express how we would like. But I've seen that as a swimmer. I swam in the early 90s when I was younger. And at that time, it was very classical music, the very synchro of, pretty and stuff. So Kai and I, my partner, my swim partner, were kind of like the two little chocolate drops with Ashley swimming with us within a very white swimming field. So when we would come out and swim to like Michael Jackson or gospel music or something a little out of the norm, as a swimmer at that time, I was grateful enough to have a coach that would allow us to do that. So as a coach now, I very much embrace a lot of our swimmers. And again, our team, I feel, is very fortunate. The area that we're in, the DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia, we're having a lot more minority swimmers come out, Asian, Black, Hispanic, come out. And we're very open to what kind of music do you want to swim to? We'll get Latin music, we'll get French music, we'll get music. One girl from France came to our team and wanted to swim to this French music that I've never heard before. So I think as a coach, you have to really embrace that culture of your swimmers, allow them to bring versus you're just dictating what is the norm of swimming at that time, and ask them for their input. What kind of stuff do you want to swim to? And just embrace that to allow them to have that safe space to say, I want to swim to something different or some cultural music. I mean, we swim to gospel music, and having that conversation with your coaches and your swimmers, I think is very important to allow them and make that safe space for them to allow them to embrace any kind of culture or any kind of different aspects to it. Because I remember when we were swimming growing up, we would swim, in those southern states, and teams that we would see, we would be beating throughout the year. When we go down south, we're not beating them because we look different or what have you. I remember as a young swimmer growing up, and I don't think we recognized it at the time, we weren't getting the scores that we were usually getting, and our parents and our coaches were really upset. And as a young swimmer, we were like, well, maybe we just messed up or we didn't look as good this time, and we would think that, but our coaches and our parents knew it was because we were the little chocolate drops that were swimming in, the very white field. And I'm glad to see so many faces right now because you don't see that in coaching or judging. When I was swimming, I didn't see anyone who looked like me as a judge, but now I see a little bit more of that, which is great. And I think, we really push our swimmers going into college, hey, maybe you want to be a judge, maybe you want to be a coach, so that we can see a little bit more of those type of faces judging and coaching.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I agree. It's, growing up as a Black synchro swimmer in South Florida, the only,
Right.
I remember myself and Kai and Basara, we would get ready to just go to meets just to see each other because
Right.
it's like, oh, there's another one of me.
Absolutely. And that you would
And
see each other and be like, yes, hey girl, what's up? Like
yes,
immediately.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. So I want to touch with the athletes. So I have my twins, Brianna and Rachel, from a very big top club of our country. I won't even say the club, if you probably would know already without me having to say. But these two are two Black synchronized swimmers as well. And I love that the fact that they are very vocal. And I definitely want to hear the challenges you face as a Black synchronized swimmer in 2020. Now, I was a swimmer 96, 97, 98,
right.
Total difference. So I would love to hear briefly, as Black artistic swimmers, what challenges do you face and what do you want to see to alleviate some of those challenges moving forward?
For me, one big thing is the suit color matching. And that's like a big thing for me because I'm going into my 10th year of swimming. So I've been swimming for 9 years and I've only had 2 suits that were made for my color. And that was last year. And so when I had that suit, it makes me feel like so much more comfortable swimming. Like I feel represented. This is my suit. This is for me. And I just didn't understand why a suit can be made specifically for my measurements, but it can't be made for my color. Like it didn't make sense to me. And I'm not even that dark. I'm like half Black, so I can only imagine how like the full Black darker swimmers must feel. Like I can never imagine that. That's the big thing for me. I would love to see more color match suits. And then the other thing is you really don't see, again, other swimmers, coaches, judges that look like you. So it's not hard to feel out of place when you're like the only one there, other than obviously my sister, but.
Yeah, just to elaborate on what she said, even though like the suits doesn't seem like a big deal, to us it really is, because if you're swimming in a suit that isn't your color, it does make you feel ugly and it makes you feel like you don't have enough confidence. It really gets to you. Also, there's not a lot of diversity in our club, in our sport. There's barely any in our club, and it makes you feel out of place. Even though I've been swimming this is going to be my 10th year, like she said, I still feel like I don't fully belong in this sport.
So what we as an organization definitely need to take into consideration and definitely need to move forward to make sure that our athletes, whether Black, Hispanic, Indian, any culture, needs to be comfortable, because we should not listen to any athlete say that they walk out on the pool deck and they're not confident and they're not comfortable because their swimsuit does not match their color. And I've said this multiple times. When we say that we don't see color is when things like this happen. When we say, oh, well, we don't see color, or, everyone's equal, you have to see color or you're going to have the wrong swimsuit on the child. And saying that you don't see color is extremely, extremely ignorant. And excuse me for being harsh, but it is. It's what you're doing is you're sweeping the issue under the rug and saying, well, her hair is the same as her hair, when it's not. Or her skin tone is the same as hers and she has to wear an inappropriate swimsuit. So that's something as an organization, which I am definitely working with Adam to correct. Even if it has to be something where it has to say, there's a financial penalty if a club shows up with children not in the right swimsuit color. I mean, maybe it has to get that harsh to where we make sure that our athletes, our children of color, feel confident and feel okay to get out there and be in a sport that is typically not considered their sport. You know what I mean? So that's something that we will definitely continue the fight moving forward between myself, Adam, and everyone on this phone call. So I want to move over to Patrice, who is a coach, and Lauren. They are both coaches on the same club, both Black coaches. And I want to talk to them on the coaching aspect, difficulties, because you guys are coming from California, which is a very, very dominant synchro state. You know what I mean? So I would love to get your guys's input. What's difficult? What are challenges? What can we do to get this moving forward? And my next group is the parents. I'm coming to you guys in a second, but coaches, let's go.
Hi, thanks, Ashley. So just kind of talking off from what the previous people have spoken on, just going into a competition and not seeing a lot of Black athletes is really disheartening for me. I did synchro, I was 11 years old with USA Synchro at the time. And I fortunately had a very different experience because I was on an all Black synchronized swimming team. So when I would look around, I would see, you know, my people, and, you know, it was an awesome feeling, but going into the competitions, it was very different. You know, not seeing a lot of other Black athletes in the sports. And I know the two young ladies who spoke earlier, Brianna and Rachel, I may not, you know, like know you guys personally, but I've seen you guys grow up in the sport just because it's like, oh my God, you know, I go to a competition, I look and I'm like, wow, they're beautiful. They're, you know, and they're doing great things in the sport. And, you know, I notice you just right off the bat because you guys are Black athletes and I don't see that a lot. And just also kind of recently what Ashley was mentioning in terms of like going to convention and going to national level competitions and people getting my name and Courtney's name confused all the time. I've actually, you know, heard of, you know, me being called Ashley before. And, you know, that to me is unacceptable just for the fact that all of us have been in the sport long enough for you to know our name. And that to me, you know, definitely kind of strikes as, you know, not really taking the time to get to know the, you know, the coaches that are present, you know, even if, you know, you may not, you know, come up to us and talk to us, you know, just say hi or something like that would be wonderful. But yeah, so that's my biggest thing is, again, not seeing enough athletes, you know, that are Black in the sport. Same thing goes with judging as well, you know, and again, just even within my own association, my own zone, and being confused by the only other Black coach that I know of, you know, within the West Zone, and not knowing who we are and the difference. I'm like almost 6 feet tall, very different looking from, you know, from Courtney. So yeah.
My screen is frozen. Courtney, did you want to say something? My screen just froze on me, but if you're there, Courtney.
I think she's having some issues with the technology. It's lagging on her.
Okay, no problem. No, for sure. I think that's something that for sure has to, something that, again, like I said, we've got to correct the situation. Just all across the board. I did see some response that I got from my survey from parents, which some from parents, and actually the podcast that I listened to on Fishtail Mag, the podcast with the 4 or 5 former Black synchronized swimmers. And one of them, which I'll reach out to the parents that are on this call now, some parents had some concerns of, one, getting Blacks or minorities into this sport, being that it's extremely expensive, and 2, the resourcefulness, like, so, you know, having the access to even get to a synchro club, or the financial burden of a synchro club. And another thing
I think we lost Ashley real quick. Hopefully her Wi-Fi connects back in and she will be up and running. I don't know if she has her on a show, but I did not see one. She said she cannot get back in. I got made the host again. So give me 1 second. I will get Ashley back in as she got booted off. Just to keep us going, I'm going to ask for a volunteer to go ahead and share their conversation. Go ahead, raise your hand. It'll be your time to speak. First one to raise their hand. No, nobody? All right, go ahead. I got Coach Judge Master is all I can see. You're up.
Sorry, it's V. It's for Sarah. I was saying, but Ashley's here now, so we're good.
Oh, I'm here.
She's back in.
Oh,
Thanks for bearing with us.
thank you. Sorry. So my next topic was getting to was parents. There has been things that I have received as far as, like I said, the financial commitment of Synchro, or not being accessible as easily as other things, like maybe soccer, which is down the street for $50 for the whole season. Another thing I did see also were Black parents who said, and this has happened to my mom too, I've gone to meets and people will ask me, do I need help? Why are you here? Not even putting 2 and 2 together that, hey, maybe there might be a Black child swimming in the pool. And maybe she's here to watch her daughter and not here as hired help. So I wanted to get some feedback from the parents that are on the call. I know Janelle is one. Janelle is from Charlottesville Swans, and I really want to get her input or feedback as a mother of a Black child in synchro swimming. 2 Black children, 2.
Well, thank you, Ashley, and thank you, Adam, for hosting this discussion. I would like to say, first of all, touch on a couple points that the athletes made that brought something else to my attention. Just hearing their concerns makes it more relevant and a priority to make sure there are leaders that look like us in the right positions. So judges, on the board, coaches, because fortunately, my 2 daughters haven't experienced a lot of some of the things I've heard, but it's because one, our club and the parents and Coach Sam is like phenomenal, even with the skin, with the suit situation. I remember Jalen's first suit when we first joined the team and it showed up and Sam was like, whoa, wait a minute. We got to fix this. This is not going to work, because she is a dark-skinned girl. But I've always been around to empower and step in when I hear wrong comments and I hear things are being said. Even I've had a situation where I've been in a competition and someone asked me like, oh, like, what, are you here using the gym? I'm like, no, I have 2 daughters in the pool. And I will proceed to take on the conversation to explain to them about Synchro and their abilities and that sort of thing. So I think it's very important to have more brown faces around in positions, number one. Some of the other things that I think are important, and Ashley, you touched on this a little bit, some of the hurdles that may be in place for people of color, financial, access to pools, those type of resources. I think it's also going to take people in positions to make those things a priority. Fortunately, our club does a lot of outreach, and through some of our programs, we've had more people of color show up to, some of the swim camps and that sort of thing. But there may be some barriers as far as I've talked to some parents saying, it's unaffordable, or we're going to have to choose between these 2 sports because we've heard the swimsuits cost this amount. But we're always trying to work it out. And I'm not sure what other clubs, are trying to do around that. Also, I've been in positions where I'm at other pools, especially in Maryland, where I know it's a town and some people of color in Maryland, in Virginia, in North Carolina. And I'm like one of 2 Black people in the stands, and I will go and talk to other Black parents, one, to, make that connection, to figure out if they know other people that they can bring into the sport. Especially, I know in Maryland, I've actually recruited people who weren't there for the swim meet. They were at the arena for other things. And I'm like, look, your girl dance. Oh, she know how to swim. Oh, you should go talk to this coach. So I feel like, we're in a position where we have to do a lot. We got to recruit, we got to empower, we have to be the voice for those athletes who talked about some of these things. We have to be the voice for them as well.
And Janelle, I totally agree with you that yes, but there's a lot of hats as the few Black people in this organization to try to wear. right? There's
Right,
a lot
right.
of that. You know, like, okay, well, I'm one of 3 of us in the South, you know, so okay, I need to be now the zone judge, the coach,
The coach,
the
right?
recruiter, the choreographer, you know, stand up for my people and represent for all Blacks around. You know, it's a lot of hats.
It's
to
a
wear.
lot. Yeah. So that
It's
was
a
one of the,
lot.
it's one of the questions I had earlier. Just to, you know, I think once the organization gets its hands wrapped around the actual demographics, so do you have real numbers to, you know, recruit from? So how many, you know, Black swimmers do you actually have across the country swimming? That'll give you an idea for how many parents you're dealing with. So out of, let's say if it was 50 parents, can I at least get 15 of them to commit to help me wear some of these hats at competitions? So that Ashley, as I know, I've seen you do everything. So you're judging, you're coaching, you're recruiting, you're doing it all. So we can kind of divide up.
Almost sewing a bathing suit while judging at this point.
Right. So that we can, you know, try to divide and conquer and grow, because I think the whole thing is, you know, pipeline development, getting more people into the sport, but it's going to take more people than you currently have in order to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to switch it over really quick to my international friend, who is a judge and the only Black judge in the UK, Miss Marie. Please grace us with your presence. We want to know, because I'm not sure if there's any other zone Black judges other than myself right now. I know everybody's association level judge, great, but one zone judge is not enough in our country, and we need a national judge who is of color.
Hi, good evening from England. Yes, I think I am the only Black judge in UK. And how I got into it, of course, having 2 daughters swimming. And if you can't beat them, you join them. That's what I say. So we start by helping, volunteering in the club, my club here, local club. And from being a welfare officer to helping, coaching, I ended up being a judge, because Rebecca, my youngest, started in the GB squad. Hence, I thought, spending so much time traveling 4 or 5 hours every weekend to training, I'll join them. And no Black judge whatsoever. Being in the UK, I am a mixed French and Mauritian citizen. I ended up helping with the welfare side of the swimmers, and Rebecca was the only Black swimmers in the team. She worked harder than her white peers, and it still wasn't enough. Sometimes she wasn't picked for a team, even though she was gaining, you know, the higher marks in her figures, being in a medal position, and it still wasn't enough. So I am not one to cause trouble, but after a few times I thought, things are different. They were not going to come and tell you exactly, you know, racist tweets or whatever in front of you, you know, and the only things that I thought, I think I have to do something now. And as things are changing, and I thought, well, it's time. It's time. When I listened to your podcast, Ashley, and that gave me a boost, and I thought, let's get things done here. So I am very not privileged as such, but to get things moving. And now people are talking to me, phone calls are going, and hopefully we'll see something, but I don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, Marie, I did see that your letter that you wrote to your federation, and I thought was great. And you know, and it does take a lot of courage to stand up and say, hey, we've got to do something here. So it was great. And I'm glad that you got the courage to write about it. Are there Black athletes right now in England?
No. I can say in my club, there was only 2 Black girls, mixed race. And there's a few in, other clubs down south, but I can count on one hand how many Black swimmers there's not a lot.
Right. And so this is not something that's just a US issue. I'm sure we can go bring Canada on the line or bring anywhere on the line. This is not something that only the US is dealing with. So I wanted to actually get out and reach out to my non-Black athletes that are on this call who actually stepped up and wrote on behalf of just not Black athletes, but just diversity in general. So was it Melvina? Is that how you say your name, honey? Yes, your letter and how it was written was fabulous. Who is with you from your club, from Sculptons?
Thanks, Ashley. I'm with my teammates Darcy, Sria, and Mary. And we swim for Sculpin Synchro, which is in upstate New York. And unfortunately, we don't have any Black swimmers on our team currently, but we do have several people of color, like I'm half Indian, half Hispanic. So we basically saw what was going on, and we thought it was, our responsibility to reach out to USA Artistic Swimming. I guess we'll just read you the points that we came up with in our email for things
Absolutely.
that we noticed that had to change. So first, an emphasis on looking the same in addition to being synchronized has been promoted throughout the history of the sport. USA Artistic Swimming should aim to dismantle this notion as it contributes to the idea that the ideal artistic swimmer is light-skinned and slim. Also, forcing Black girls to gel is unnecessary for their hair types and reinforces the idea that they're somehow outside of the norm for the sport. Sria, I think.
Yeah. As Brianna and Rachel said, many swimmers with darker skin are forced to wear nose clips and suits that don't match their skin color, and it really does affect a swimmer's confidence. And also, we were thinking about how there isn't any diversity training and judging qualifications, and it leads to biased judging and enforcement of stereotypes. So, Darcy.
Right. So, hi everyone. Our next point in the letter focuses around how the lack of a diversity of judges and USA Artistic Swimming coaches and employees is a direct result of the stereotypes in the sport. This can cause implicit racial biases to go unnoticed and be accepted as the norm. Creating a more welcoming environment for Black swimmers will eventually help rectify this issue as they grow up and take on these roles. An effort should also be made to amplify the voices of Black swimmers and coaches whenever possible.
And the last point that we made was, no discernible plan or effort has been made in the past to be more welcoming to Black swimmers. One idea we had to help foster this environment is to feature swimmers of color on the Artistic Swimming Instagram page to provide more representation for them.
Yeah, and that's basically what we had.
All very good points. And, I'm really, really proud of you young ladies to really step up and speak on the behalf of others. And, and you might not have Black people on your team. However, there's diversity within your team, half Indian, Spanish, that still is diversity. And these are great points that with the building of the new diversity inclusion committee are points that we need to really taking into consideration. And I appreciate you ladies so much. I also have Saloni, who is a collegiate athlete who has quite a bit to say. And I've read some of her emails, which, honey, you can write. They're long, but you make great points. So I really wanted you to touch base on some of the points and things that you want to see or things that you've seen happen that we need to fix as an organization.
Thank you so much for asking me to join, Ashley. So I had reached out to USA Synchro back in the beginning of June, just with things that I had noticed just as a swimmer. I've swum for 14 years, so I've seen the like age group world and also the collegiate world. One thing that I have realized is, yes, we lack diversity, but it also seems to decrease the older you get. You have a lot more swimmers that are like more diversity in like your novice and intermediate groups. And then once you get in the age group, there's less swimmers. Once you hit 13, 15, there's less diversity. Once you hit 16, 19, like pretty much just white, you'll see maybe like 1 to 2 other like people of color. And collegiates is, you'll see like 5 people of color. It's like total. I mean, it's a small like sport as it is, and collegiates is even smaller. But it's just something that I think that like as an organization, we need to like not only do we, as everyone discussed earlier, not only do we need to increase diversity in the beginning, but we also need to help retain our Black swimmers, our Latinx swimmers, and Asians and like Indian swimmers, and just everyone, but especially Black swimmers, because there's just so much lack of inclusion. So a few things that I had talked about in my email. It is a little bit long, so I'll just try to hit the main points. So as you know, injustice and inequality are not limited to police brutality and the criminal justice system. They're everywhere. It's in pretty much every aspect of our lives. And a lot of things that people don't realize is the lack of access that happens with like redlining, which is where like neighborhoods are segregated. And so what organizations need to do is kind of help dismantle the effects of redlining and put in more programs in Black communities and communities of color, and ways to do that. So I've also taught swim lessons, and one thing that I did for 2 summers, which I just was such a cool experience, is we went into, it was funded by a grant, and we went into, every week we went to a different neighborhood and taught children just basics of swimming. But if that can be integrated with Synchro, not only can we pull in those kids into swimming, but you can also talk to the parents and just show them that it's not just a white dominated sport. And as far as discrimination and racism in the sport, my biggest thing that I would like to see changed is colorism in judging, because it is huge. I am Indian, I'm not even Black, and my skin like tans really fast. Like I'll go from like 1 shade to like 10 shades darker. And so throughout the season, when nationals is always at the end, and you always have summer training, or in collegiates you have spring break training. And so I not only would get way darker than my teammates, but like you just like hear comments like, oh, like you stick out, or like, oh, like you're so much darker than the rest of your teammates. And like hearing those things growing up is something that just like traumatizes a child. And it took me a really, really long time to dismantle that like within myself. I used to wear a swim shirt all the time. I was kind of like known for it. And one thing I didn't realize until actually one of my teammates pointed out to me is I was partially doing that because I didn't want to get darker. I didn't want to look darker than like my other teammates. And then I started doing it more for the sun because I am from Florida. But like for a really long time, I wouldn't swim without my swim shirt because I didn't want to get darker. And that's not something that any swimmer should have to face. Things like that, they traumatize young athletes, and they contribute to things to adverse childhood experiences known as ACEs. And that's defined by the WHO as some of the most intensive and frequently occurring sources of stress that children may suffer early in life. So that includes peer and community violence. So these types of things are included in peer and community violence, and it goes on to affect people for the rest of their lives. They might not even continue Synchro up until they might quit when they're 15, 16, but these experiences, like things that people tell them, like at this like anti-Blackness, will continue to affect them throughout their lives. So that's something that really needs to change. I have fortunately been surrounded by great like coaches and teammates, so I haven't like personally experienced like such comments. Sometimes it comes like I have when I was younger, just from people who I think are ignorant and like just didn't realize what they were saying. So one way to dismantle that is through talking about it. Children are very receptive. Racism is taught. It's not it's not inherent. And so if coaches sit down right now and talk to like, you shouldn't be like, oh, they're too young to understand. Like you should sit down with your 8 and under athletes or 10 and under athletes or 11, 12, 13, 15, 16, 19. Like everyone needs to sit down and talk about diversity and inclusion and making sure that microaggressions are not occurring within the team. Because these types of things just go on to just traumatize you. Like Brianna and Rachel were saying earlier, like you just don't feel like you're part of the team. You can be there for 10 years and you can still feel out of place. And I definitely felt that growing up. I was the only Indian swimmer in my team. I had one, on all my years of swimming, I had one Black teammate. And there's one other Indian girl who actually ended up swimming together in college. And I knew her from when I was like 12 because I like spotted her at meets and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the other Indian girl. And like anytime I'd go to nationals, I'd be like, oh wow, that's like another like Indian girl. That's another like Black girl. Like, wow, like, okay, there's like a few more people that are not white. So I think that it's like we just need to increase awareness among young athletes. I also, one thing that while we're working towards equality, I think that we need to understand that at this point in time, we need to do that through promoting equity, which differs from equality. So equality assumes that everyone has equal access to opportunities and resources, whereas equity acknowledges that we do not all have the same privileges and access to resources in society. So we need to work together to provide those additional resources. Things such as funds, I had a few ideas, outreach programs such as what I worked in as a swim instructor, just integrating synchro into low-income and marginalized communities, especially those of color. This can be done like pretty easily. Like clubs can work with like their county. There's like a children's board. The one that I worked in was like the children's board of that county. So it just takes a little more effort. The funding would be an issue, but I think that because there is things like that for swimming, that if we integrate synchro, it can be done.
Right. So yeah, for sure, I agree with you on the funding part is going to be difficult, but definitely what I want you to do is all those points that you have for outreach, I want you to put them in an email to me so that I can make sure, because I've been going back and forth with Adam about where to find money. I just give ideas and I tell him, hey, sir, you're on the money. That's you. I just get it done. So I definitely want you to please submit that, all those points of outreach. That way I can take it to my committee and say, hey, we have some things on the table we need to work on. Now, I loved what you said about, we need to be open and honest and just put it out there, because don't think for a second, I'm been in the sport for a long time, and don't think in the beginning I didn't get the awkward stares, or people thinking that I'm the janitor. I mean, it even happens at my pool sometimes where I go to the kitchen to get water and somebody's like, what are you doing here? And people are like, you don't know she's the synchro coach? You know what I mean? So yes, there's things that we have to make sure that we really, really take mind of, because we do not want any of our children in this sport to feel uncomfortable. And I have felt uncomfortable for a long time as an adult, as a Black coach, one of the only few of us, because there's a couple of us, so definitely this is something that has to start within our clubs with our little ones. And on top of that, it definitely has to start from the top, where the top of our organization is going to say, hey, these are things that we need to do to make sure that there's diversity, to make sure that we have Black swimmers and white swimmers and Spanish swimmers all working together. And I do agree, because, and I will be honest, I've had parents who write crazy things. Not everybody's going to like you. Okay, we know that. But, parents will complain about anything. Mm-hmm. And one said, well, Ashley will get away with anything because she's Black in synchro. And I will be the first to tell you, my Blackness did not get me anywhere in this, my brain. my abilities, my Blackness. You know, I don't get any special privileges because I'm Black, because I'll be the first one to tell you, I didn't pass the national judges test. And if I had privilege, they would have been like, oh, well, because you're Black, go ahead on. Clearly,
Yeah.
you know, so when people say, well, you can get away with things because you're Black, that it doesn't work like that. So I just want to make that clear
Exactly.
across
No,
the board that we as Blacks in a sport that is not predominantly a Black sport, we have to work hard. But here's the thing that I want to make it easy, or not easy, but understandable. USA Artistic Swimming is not the only organization going through this. The NFL right now is going through big changes and turnarounds because of, you know, Blacks within their organization. Swimming is going through the same thing. So we all just need to make that move forward, definitely. Now, I want to be sure, because like everybody knows, I am the interim acting chair of diversity and inclusion. And I want to make sure that people who are watching on YouTube know that this is not just, oh, we only care about Black people, because I've gotten emails also, and I just want to make that clear too, that people are like, well, what about the Spanish people? What about Indian? What about, right now, we have to start where it's completely broken. And right now, the broken spot is the Black community, which is less than 1%. So I just want to make of our organization. So I just want to make sure that that people don't think that this is only all about Black people. We have to start somewhere to fix, so that our statement of all synchro lives matter really means all synchro lives matter, right? So I just want to make that clear to everybody. Now, on top of that, with diversity, we still also have the male aspect and the transgender aspect. So that's why I wanted to bring Johnny on to this call to touch on situations of inequality with males or transgender, because I can talk all day about Black folks, but I want to make sure that we touch on everyone that is affected under this umbrella. All right, Johnny, come, let's go.
First, I just want to say thank you to everyone for being on the call, especially Marie, because I know it's probably like midnight in England right now. But also thank you to all of the ladies out there and sharing your stories and concerns and where you would like to see the organization evolve and move. From a male aspect of things, I can tell you that I have spoken to quite a bit of males around the world, but also, you know, remembering stories of the past from some of our top male swimmers. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me.
Now we can. It went out for a second.
So basically, hearing stories from parents and from the male swimmers themselves about the type of bully or discrimination that they are going through, or comments that are made of how males should not be a part of this sport, that it's a women empowered sport and it should only be women coaches, women judges, women, you know, swimmers. So, you know, that type of discrimination still exists within the sport in general. And I also know that with the young boys that I've spoken to, you know, or Skyped with, they're facing that today within the organization or within their own club. And the organization has got to assist the club structures and the clubs and policies so that this does not happen. And I think it can no longer just kind of sit back and let the club take full reign of like, well, it's your issue, so you take care of it. It's got to be coming from the top down, and we have to support the young boys that are coming into the sport, who are facing this type of discrimination or adversity, and really just be able to lift them up, because you know, diversity is about inclusivity, and it's about seeing people for who they are and bringing them into existence. And we want that for everyone that joins artistic swimming, I think in every country. As a male judge, as a male coach, I will tell you for many years, it was, I look at it as it was Ashley and I. She is
The two oddballs.
she is
that
my
was our
pool
name.
wife at the end of the day, and we comment on that quite often. And it can be intimidating as a male coach, for sure. I look to people that I have a relationship with to give me the support that I need. As a male judge, I, like Ashley, have not passed the national judges test after 4 times taking it. Yet I'm well off national in Canada. Yet we all read the same book and we judge from the same book. So, things need to happen there, because I have seen international people come to the US and it's kind of like a freebie. And so yet I'm told, well, you got to start all over. Doesn't really, when you read the same book, the same manual, there's something there in my eyes. Ideally, from an LGBTQ side of things, yes, I am gay. And yes, this is probably the first time that I am announcing it on a but at the same time, I've worked with athletes, young athletes who are of the LGBTQ community, who do not feel that they can be open to who they are as individuals and have that empowerment themselves. Yeah. All of them have been female, and working with them on who they are, how they come out to their teammates, how they come out to their parents, has been a journey of my own as a coach, to give them that support. Because at the end of the day, I look at it as I'm a synchronized swimming coach for sure, but I coach the person first before I even coach the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have LGBTQ people, speaking about who they are, we have to support it. In transgender, there's a huge part, I think, within the structure of the sport that we are missing, because how open is a club going to be? What tools have we given the club or clubs to welcome transgender members? What opportunities are there at facilities that we that we are paying members of, where we are working together to welcome transgender? What's the locker room situation like for a transgender novice athlete? Are they protected in there? These are things that we have to look at beyond the synchro aspect of coaching the skill. And we have to, in a way, work with the parents, definitely, as well as the athlete. And we will have some parents that say, I don't want my athlete to know. But we're coming down into a society where we have to tell, we have to share, we have to be open and inclusive. And, we have to make it work for every individual, because, in one of my social media posts, and I put this everywhere, Sawabona Sakona, I see you and I bring you into existence and you see me, that's what we have to do within diversity. And one of the things, since Adam's on the call, that I think the organization needs, especially the board of directors, is to go through a diversity course. And Guardian Quest is probably one of the most sought out organizations out there that does diversity courses, especially for management positions. And it gives them the opportunity to really learn about who they are as individuals and grow within, 2, 3, 4 day course. And, I ask each and every single one of you on the call today, take a piece of paper and write the word man, take another one, put woman, take another one, write Asian or Black or Hispanic or homosexual. And then write down on each one of those, if you were a man, any comments, negative comments, or racial comments, bigotry type comments, that you've heard from men, that you might have said, that you might have read, that you heard at a comedy show, that you heard in a movie, right? And do that for every single paper. And then you realize, who are you as a human? Do you relate to any of those? And most likely the answer is going to be yes. And you'll find out that we all bleed the same, even though our colors are color. And we need to create that humanitarian atmosphere within the structure of the organization and every clubhouse.
Right. Perfect. Thank you, Johnny. Maxina, I see you. She's like, I'm going to ask you something in a second, honey. Okay. I have a question for you, my friend from Walnut Creek. I'm coming to you in a second. Adam, go ahead and after what Johnny said, we'd love to get some input from you. And then I want to talk to Maxina, and I have some things to wrap up, closing words type of things.
Yeah, really quick for me. I have acknowledged previously on this call even that we have a lot of growing to do, and that has been an enlightening process for me. But I think that more importantly, we have to continue to learn. And so, John, your recommendation of going through some variation of diversity training or sensitivity training for me, my staff, the board of directors is very valid. I think that for the staff, a longer term opportunity is very viable. The board, we have to be a little bit more mindful of timing, but at the end, we need to understand better, right? This conversation is the first step in that. And then there are obviously mechanisms and platforms for all of us to be more intentional, about that. So thanks for the recommendations. Thanks for everybody who has given their insights, because it is helpful. Every word that comes from each of you is a learning process for myself and hopefully a lot of other people.
Perfect. And Maxina, my athlete from the West as well. Thanks for joining us. Hello. What age group are you?
I'm a 13-15.
13-15. And are you the only Black of 13-15 of your team?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the whole club. Anyway, I'm one of the only Black people in my club, but there are a lot of other, like, it's very diverse. It's not just white. There's Asian, and it's
mixed. It's a mixed group of girls, right? It's a mixed group of girls on your team. And is there anything that, and you probably love your team, which is great, but is there anything that maybe, things that maybe concerns that you may have, or anything you want to tell us?
No, well, yes, I wish that there were more specifically Black swimmers in my club, and like coaches and judges. But I think that I've been on the luckier end of the spectrum, because I've never gotten any like comments or any biases in my scores towards my. So I think I'm very lucky with that. And also the suits that I've all had have been color matched, which I think is
excellent.
Very lucky.
Excellent. Please give your coaches a high five for me. Please tell Coach Kim and everybody I said thank you, because that's great. That is great. And that's what we like to hear. And we want to make sure that the other Black children or darker skinned Spanish children or Indian children all have the right suits. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I actually have to go right now because I do have a synchronous swimming Zoom.
Yeah, get to practice. You don't want to be late to practice, honey. Get to practice. I don't want your coaches mad at me. Tell them all I said hello, okay? Have a great practice, Maxina. Thanks for joining us. Bye. You know, you have to always love a swimmer that wants to be on time. That's great. So a couple things that I want to say just to get us off of this phone call. I do appreciate all of you coming out. It's not easy to talk about things that apparently are issues. I will say from me, I do agree. The board of directors, there needs to be definitely more diversity on the board of directors for sure. We cannot as an organization say that we want diversity and we want inclusion and have an completely all white board of directors, you know, so we definitely, and I know that's something that is going to be in the works, you know, because we have to match what we're saying, you know.
And can I say something real quick? Somebody from the board should have been on this call. Why isn't anyone from the board a part of this discussion?
Adam?
Yeah, I just think that we didn't invite them to this platform. I know that there are 3 of them at minimum, if not more, that are on the YouTube side of this.
Okay.
Yeah, they're definitely
So they're
listening
watching.
in
Okay.
and learning, no doubt. I can't confirm everyone that's on, but they just weren't invited to this platform. This is mostly for you guys to engage and interact.
Okay, that's good to know.
Thank
The
you for
watching
bringing
part.
that up, most certainly.
Perfect. So for sure, yeah, moving forward, absolutely, the board of directors, definitely more diversity is what I would like to see. What I also like to see is something with the national judges test. And I will put myself out there and say it because I'm a nurse. I took my nursing boards. That test is harder than saving a life, to be honest. I'm not trying to be funny, but my Lord, like we've got to figure something out. I mean, a 90% pass rate to be a nurse or even a doctor, it's not a 90% pass rate. So something that's a national judges test, I think we need to really look into that. I mean, myself, John, any of us who've been coaching since Jesus was walking the earth, and you know, I think we need to really evaluate that. I'm not saying make it super easy or anything like that. I'm just saying we need to reevaluate that if we want diversity as far as judges, because I don't know any other Black judge right now who's a level 3 or beyond. So, and even Black, Spanish, Indian, I don't see any of that on the judges panel at any national meets. And so that's something that I would love for our organization to reevaluate. And definitely, I encourage all of you. This is not something that's going to change overnight. This is not something that we're going to wake up tomorrow and everything's great. No, it's not. We know that. So I really encourage any of you on this call to please reach out to me, text message, email, whatever, because it's going to be a long journey, but I'm willing to take that long journey, because if I'm the one running my mouth so much, I better make sure I get my butt moving. There's nothing worse than running your mouth and not doing anything to fix the problem. And that's not the type of person I am. So I appreciate all of you. Adam, thank you so much for putting this together. I think it's definitely an eye opener for our organization that yes, we do need to get the ball rolling, not just for Blacks, but for across the board. So I appreciate that. And the athletes and the coaches and the parents who joined us, the non-Black athletes were fantastic with all of your wording. And if there's anything else, last minute words, anything that needs to be, yes.
I have a quick thing, kind of when we were talking about the collegiates, I remember for me standing out, when I was even just thinking of schools, I was told, oh no, you can't even really go to that school, they won't accept you. Not because of my ability, but because I wouldn't, quote, maybe look like the other swimmers or fit in. So that was also something I think, as a minority swimmer, thinking about why maybe we don't see as many minorities in collegiates, is that it's not, I can apply anywhere for synchro and get in to swim. You know, there's not as many now, unfortunate, even synchro college schools that have synchro in it. But when I was applying, it was, oh no, you don't want to swim for that coach, you won't swim. So that's also another point as a minority swimmer, when you're looking for collegiate, to really, it's understandable you have to think like that, or even look like that, look at the schools like that. Well, will I even get to swim? So that was
Right.
just, I think, a conversation that needs to happen as well collegiately.
Right. Absolutely. And I don't know the collegiate world. I have to go to, I call her Azibu. I have to go to Megan Azibu for everything because I don't know that world, but I think she's just so great at this whole collegiate aspect of things that I reach out to her a lot, between her and Meredith, about just clarifications. And I think that's something as well. I would love to see at our next conventions, I mean, maybe not this year, but the following year, that there is a meeting for people of color within the sport. There has to be, where we go to conventions and I think there's like an LGBTQ meeting or something like that, if I remember correctly seeing it, but there needs to be a meeting, whoever the person is for diversity and inclusion, the VP, there has to be one meeting that is just specifically geared to minorities, people of color, gender, doesn't matter, that way we can continue to stay on top of it. Because what has happened all these years, diversity, inclusion, Black people, it has fallen under the table. It has, and we just have to be honest and accept it has happened. So now we have to really catch up at 2020, because it just wasn't something that was. So moving forward, I want all of your guys' help and input, from parents, from athletes. Please don't feel like you have to, I'm not sure if you can tell me anything. You can tell me anything.
Can I say something, please? Just
Marie,
just to say thank you very much for including me in, and I've learned so much, because obviously from England it's completely different, and things I didn't know about, Black swimmers in America, I've learned quite a lot, and that has opened my eyes completely. And big thank you, Ashley.
Absolutely. I'm all about eye-opening experiences. So if you had one, I did my job.
I've learned so much, and I can't believe it. When I'm hearing a lot of things, I'm like, really? I didn't know about this. And so hopefully things will get rolling now.
Absolutely. Anything that you got from today, take it back with you to make things better for Black swimmers as well in England.
Can I
Thank
say
you
one more
very
thing?
much.
Sure, Rachel.
Yeah, I forgot to mention this earlier, but I heard one girl mention something about hair, and I wanted to touch on that briefly. I know that Knox doesn't do really well with Black hair, and you end up swimming with a bunch of bobby pins. And I know that you aren't judged on your artistic impression, like your appearance. You're not judged on the hair, but I know that protective styles, swimming with that, is often viewed as like unprofessional, and some clubs won't let you wear them. So maybe if we could see like more encouragement for Black girls to be able to swim with protective styles, that would be great. Yeah, also like, oh sorry, I was just gonna say, when I was like little, I would have like team moms, some of them would just give up on my hair, or coaches put like 6 or 7 layers of Knox in, not knowing that my hair was going to absorb it all. So those are just like little things that if we want to support our Black swimmers, just like pay attention to those little details.
Actually, there's something I wanted to kind of add on that too, just dealing with hair in general.
Yes.
I know like there are a lot of parents, that go as chaperones. And, fortunate enough for my club, like obviously I'm Black, and if I had a Black athlete, I was the one doing their hair, just because it was easier for me to take it on. Or if, they had to have cornrows in their hair, just because it's a lot easier, to be able to pull it back. Like I've heard conversations while judging or just being on the pool deck where kids are like, why does that girl have cornrows in her hair or braids in her hair? It's like, well, that's what we have to do. Like, and another assumption too, not all Black hair is the same. Like everybody has different textures of hair. The same thing goes for Black hair in general. What works for one does not work for all. And another thing that has bothered me since, I guess, the beginning of time in my synchro career is calling the nose clip a flesh-colored nose clip. It is not a flesh-colored nose clip. And the first time, you're laughing at me, Ashley, because this is a conversation we've had before.
We've had this so many times.
And the fact that they have this new nose clip that's charcoal, I'm sorry, that does not match my skin color either. Please stop calling it a flesh colored nose clip. Just call it a nose clip, and that's what it is.
It's
no
terrible.
flesh color.
I know. No, it's a mess.
And I'm actually happy that the swimmers brought up the swimsuit too, because, you know, I've worked with people before in designing our kids' swimsuit. And I was told once before, well, I don't have a flesh colored, you know, mesh to match your athlete. Can I just put black on? And I'm like, no, like you have to, you know, you have to come up with something, you know, that's going to fit for all my swimmers. I'm like, if one kid has on black, then we're all having on black then, if that's the case.
And I do this, the HOW meeting. It's a group of coaches in Canada, and they have the HOW, it's a coaching hour. And one of them, she designed swimsuits, and she said, if any seamstress tells you that they don't make mesh for Black children or for any children of color, it's a lie. So they have every color of mesh under the sun. So there's no reason why a darker skinned Indian child should have on white mesh. There's no reason. I understand reusing suits, but I think we have to kind of say enough is enough. And we have to put penalties in place, because if we have athletes sitting here right now on this call telling us that they are uncomfortable, and they finally 2 years ago are comfortable in a suit, and they've been swimming for 10 years, 8 years of being uncomfortable is
not looking pretty. Like, that's not okay.
It's
how can you
not
go
okay at
out
all.
and do your best when you don't feel at your best, because the people around you, you know, are telling you, oh no, this is what you have to wear. This is what, you know, we put together, not even acknowledging, you know, the color of the skin. Yeah, no,
that's like putting a male swimmer in a bathing suit, a female bathing suit. It's almost the same. You would not put your male athlete in a female bathing suit just to say, well, you're in synchro. You know, that's what you have to wear. So, I mean, I know me at my age, I'm not wearing no swimsuit. First of all, I'm barely wearing a swimsuit. And if I had to, it has to be my skin color. You know,
the thing is with the USA, you know, artistic swimming rule book, is that we can amend the rules and policies to our own culture. Remember that if I'm just going to say this, that all of you there who have expressed what you've expressed today and shared what you've shared today, you know, make sure it gets to Ashley via email or handwritten letter if that's you know your way of doing it, so that she shares it with the task force that she's on right now, because I think what's coming down the pipeline is also going to help all of us and help the organization grow. So you know, we're right in the beginning steps of, you know, developing the committee, but there's nothing to say that we can also do, you know, some of the pre-work for that committee as well. So, you know, share your stories with her, and I'm pretty sure you'll see change.
Perfect. So the last thing I need from all of you in the group, So I need all of you on this call to send me your email address. So that way I can reach out to you directly. I can make contact with all of you. And also I have people within my committee that are in the collegiate area or the master's area or different areas where they might want to connect directly with some of you. And that would be a huge help. Also, if you know of any other Black artistic swimmers within your region or your area, please get them in contact with me, because I'm trying to start a database to try to have and know where our Black athletes are. And then once we've kind of ironed out what's going on within the Black community of artistic swimming and have been able to move forward, then we will make it a total all synchro matters, you know, all artistic swimmers matter. And then we as a organization can then move forward and, hey, okay, our Indians, our Hispanics and we get the ball rolling, but we've got to fix this one little broken area to then be able to fix the whole situation. So please, if you can, before you get off of this, put in the, I guess, the chat box. Where the heck is it? I'm horrible at Zoom. I've been on so many.
One thing or two things.
I'm sorry?
I just have two things I wanted to say.
Oh yeah, go.
So that's okay. So first, as a non-Black person of color, I would like to say that it is okay to focus on Black athletes because that is where our focus needs to be right now. So that's just at everyone watching. And yeah, that is, like Ashley was saying, that's a broken link that we need to focus on right now. Secondly, as John was talking about earlier for LGBT athletes, I actually had not one, not two, but three trans teammates, and every single one of them quit after they transitioned. It was heartbreaking. One of them was he was my duet partner, and he had actually switched over teams, but it just like, it sucked to see it because they all felt unwelcomed. They all loved synchro, but they felt unwelcomed in the sport. I am also LGBT, and it took me really long time to even accept it because of synchro, because it's such a, homophobia is just so prevalent in the sport. So I think that is one thing that we need to work on as far as talking to younger athletes. There's like one time where a younger athlete that I knew had like come out, and then all of a sudden the parents around were like freaking out because they're like, oh no, like she's gonna want to date my child. And I fortunately was there and like sat down with them. I was like, that's not probably going to happen, and if it does, that has more to do with your child than the other child, and it's not a reason to exclude the children. A lot of LGBT athletes are afraid to come out to their teammates and their coaches. They're afraid of just talking about it. Like I have spoken, I've like connected with a few athletes recently who were LGBT because they are LGBT, like synchro athletes, and it's just like one athlete was like, oh, I can't like come out, like she's a collegiate athlete, or she is a collegiate athlete, and yeah, it's just the homophobia is like super prevalent within like coaching and teammates, and it's just, I fortunately like had really good coaches and teammates, and I didn't have to deal with that, but I was still scared to come out and coach, because I did coach younger children. I was afraid the parents would want me around, or like. So that's just something that I think also needs to be addressed, because it's very like hush hush. And as far as trans athletes, they definitely need to be more welcomed within the sport. So that's just something I wanted to say earlier.
Perfect. I agree with you, and we will attack as much as we can with this new committee. We just have to get the committee off the floor. but we have all of these things, and my committee is watching right now. There's just one thing that I guess, Adam, people were trying to leave messages but couldn't. So I'm just going to read something that was emailed. I guess I don't know what happened with the YouTube or whatever, but it's from Lorraine Ballerino in Lakeland, Florida. This was a great presentation. Thank you, U.S. Artistic Swimming, Adam, Ashley Johnson, all the participants in the call. Appreciate your candor. Having coached very diverse group of athletes, Asian, Hispanic, Black, and males over the years, it's been difficult to retain athletes over the years. And I am very encouraged moving forward that positive change will be coming. This was a very important Zoom call from Lorraine Ballerino in Lakeland, Florida. So Lorraine, shout out to you. Thank you for sending it through email. I don't know what happened with YouTube, but you found me. That's all that matters. So ladies and gentlemen, we are over the hour. If this is something that you guys enjoyed, we can definitely come together again in maybe a month or a month and a half, same group of people, kind of say, okay, this is where we were, this is where we're going. If you would like that, I would love to sit and chat with you all again, maybe just me. Adam's got a heck of a lot going on, but I can run the show without him for sure. So if this is something you guys like, we can do this again. And I think it's something that needs to happen. I don't think this is a one conversation, you don't fix glass after it broke that easily. Like, come on. So please send me all of your emails. I'm going to start an email group with the people that are on this call right now and probably include a couple more. And we can do another meeting. You know, hey, after this meeting, I went back to my club. We were able to establish this. We were able to move this forward, ideas and things like that. We can do that maybe in a month and a half. So if this works for you guys, please.
So should we
send
put
me-
it in the chat? Because I'm only allowed to, it says I can only send private messages to Adam.
Oh.
Hey, just to let you know that I am copying every message that comes through. I'll get it over to Ashley. So you
Okay,
put it
so-
in there. she'll get
Okay.
it.
Perfect. Put it in there, and then I will start a new. It will be called DD, Diversity Discussion, and we can definitely meet athletes. If you have any athletes that are passionate about this topic, I highly suggest that you get them involved. Parents, if you know of any other parents of color that are interested, get them involved in this group. Coaches, if you have athletes of color or you're a coach, Black, Spanish, whatever, continue on this discussion because this is something that has to be ongoing over the next few months. And Marie, you are part of the team. So even though you're in England, you're with us now.
Sure, thank you very much.
Perfect. We
I
took
really
you.
appreciate.
You're with us. No problem. I'm gonna send you a USA shirt too, so you can wear it on the next call. Everybody, thank you so much. Adam, you'll get me that info, right? Adam will get me that info.
And having us all together. This is amazing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody.
I will keep you guys posted. I will see you all later and look out for an email from me.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.